Hi y'all, welcome to my shop. I was working on this this cremation urn, and I thought, you know, maybe I ought to share this with you. I've only made a couple of full-size cremation urns, and the last one I showed in an earlier video was a disaster. It cracked, and I finally just pulled it apart. But I like the design. I'm going to use that same style. If this is something of interest to you, continue to watch, and if you're a new viewer, I hope you'll consider subscribing. So I went ahead and got a start. I'll show you this big block I started with. I've got a little clip here. It's a big piece of Bradford Pear. It's about 7 inches across and about in diameter now, and about 10 inches long. I've shaped the outside. It's got some nice figure. I had one little tiny bark inclusion. I put some ebony dust in there with some thin CA. So it's shaping up nicely. Now it's still wet and green, and it'll probably move a little bit because of some of this figure, but I'm about ready to start hollowing it. So stay tuned. On the previous urn, which, like I say, I really like this shape, I still have the top and the threaded collar, which I'm going to get to reuse. I've got to tuck this in, and I've got to get this top dimension right, so that's what I'm doing right now. Let me set this aside, speed up a little bit. It's a big chunk of wood. I don't need to go much faster than 800 or 900. Start tucking it in about here. Well, it's going into ingrain, not a good idea for a spindle. Okay, that's the look I'm going for. Very similar. Let me step back and look at the profile. It's tucked in a little bit more here, which tells me maybe this needs to be thinned down just a little bit. Let's double check that. No, I can still come down at least 1/8 of an inch. And it doesn't have to match it perfectly, because nobody's ever going to see that other one. Alright, I've already got a foot on this thing. I've already got the outside pretty much sanded, so let's go ahead and put it in a big chuck. Okay, I got my big Techno-Tool Titan chuck with its power grip jaws that I think will do an okay job. I know a lot of folks say you ought to use a faceplate. Faceplate is good, but chucks are a whole lot faster. I don't know if I turned it around the right direction. And I think I can control the vibration and not have it cause me any real problems. Alright, so I've got it in there. Got a nice concave tenon where it tucks in a little bit so it fits perfectly flat on the outside. Move this around, tighten it a couple of times. And I'll have to go back and retighten it since it's green wood. And I think rather than use the point center, which might drift it off who knows, a small amount, I'm going to use a flat center there. And actually, before I do that, I probably ought to face this off a little bit since it's got an uneven surface. So let's do that. I'm just going to use this detail gouge since it's here. Okay, now I got a flat area, flat on it, just to give it a little extra support, reduce vibration. I'm just going to tune up the outside one more time and tune up the face, because the face is important on the shape of this thing, and this is still got some rough edges, got to come down here a little bit. So I'm going to use a small bowl gouge to clean up this edge and concave this in just a little bit. Bracing my finger, coming straight in. Bracing it so it won't kick back on me, escape. Okay. Now again, compare it with the old one. And I came down and then I had a flat area. I'll worry about that later. Let me just compare the top with what that urn top is going to look like. Before I set it to hollow, I've already got a threaded ring that's going to fit that came off that other urn disaster. I put my pencil here, and I know this will give me pretty close to 2 inches, which is what that is. And then I'll size that hole just a little bit smaller than that and come back and clean it up at the very end. First thing I've got to do is get ready. I've got to drill a hole here, so I'm going to just remove that little nub I had here and chamfer it down so the drill bit won't wander. Whoop, that wasn't pretty. Okay, pull out my 1-inch Morse taper drill bit. Got a drill weighs, it's 9 inches. I'm not sure if it'll go 9 inches, but it will if we go all the way down in here. So we're going to have to go in here about, looks like to about a 1/2 inch. Now I've removed the drill temporarily, and I've got to open this up a little bit for the quill so I can drill deeper. We're going to get speed up a little bit. I'm just simply going to use a box scraper, and we're just going to come out on the edge. I'm going to mark that just a little bit better, make sure I don't size it wrong, so I can see what I'm doing. I want to do that inside ring right there. So we're going to go down maybe, I think it's about 1.5 inches. I can do this with a hollowing rig, but it's not worth setting up for the time involved. It doesn't take long. Okay, that's enough room for the quill to get down in there, I believe. Go back to the drill bit. Come in there. 3/4 mark. Okay. And there we are. We're done. We've got a depth hole all the way to the bottom. Okay, as I get set up for hollowing, I'm going to take off this glove, which I only needed when it was roughing because it was tearing up my hand. And we're just going to slide this over onto my poor man's swing away and roll it out of the way. Alright, I've got my Jameson rig set up. Remove the tail stock. Let's move in a little closer. I'm not going to show you a lot of details of hollowing because frankly I don't feel qualified to teach hollowing, but just want to show you a couple of quick things here. You want to make sure you have that safety pin in there so this thing can't extract forward. A very important safety mechanism. And we're going to just set the tool rest where you're cutting on. Set the tool rest where you're cutting on center. This really nice Lyle Jamison tool rest where you can dial it in, which is just a nice feature. You can get that thing right in on the money, and sometimes a 30 seconds or 1/16 of an inch can really make a difference. So we're ready to start doing. I'm going to get started. First thing we're going to do, we got this almost a 2-inch bore here that only goes down about 1 inch. We're going to cut that bore all the way down through the middle so we have room for the shavings to clear, and then we'll start working on the side. This is relatively effortless. Get it up to about 900. I don't have the air compressor moved up yet. I'll set that up in just a moment. Meanwhile, we'll just scrape out some of these shavings. I've gone from about approximately 1 inch to about 4 inches in just straight down in just that minimal amount of time. And just like drilling, it's important to clear this hole often because if you don't, it's going to jam this up and trap it in there. So, you know, do a little cleaning. You know, I'm using a bent fork with 3 tines, only so I don't have to listen to the air compressors often. And I put this little blue tape just to give me a quick indicator when I'm getting close to the bottom on coming down on that 2-inch all the way down. The other tip I have for you is no different than one for any other tool. If it's almost sharp, it'll almost cut. These are scrapers, so they're small, so they do need to be sharpened. So keep it extra on hand so you don't have to break up your continuity of work too much. And you can just take the old one out, replace it with a sharp one, and then presumably maybe sharpen both of them at the same time. Now I've twisted that cutter a little bit to the left, and I'm going to use it this way before I change to a different actually hooked cutter, and this will give me a little more cutting before I switch. Now I've gone down 3 or 4 inches with this cutter. Now it's time for me to switch. We're going to start hollowing to the final wall thickness from here and working our way down with that principle of leaving the maximum amount of mass at the base for as long as possible. So I'm going to move this over here. Let's blow it out some here. So now we're going to get this Allen wrench and replace cutters. We're going to pull out the whole assembly. We're going to replace it with one that's a little bit curved that I can better get behind the shoulder all the way down. And don't wring these things out, just kind of give them a pop. I've got a flat filed on here, so that should hold it without any problem. Alright, now I'm going to ease this thing over. Move the tail rest back just a little bit for a little while. Make sure we're still cutting on center. Yep, we're going to come in now. Now's the time to calibrate the laser, and we're going to do that by adjusting this and move it up to the tip, and then we're going to move it back the wall thickness. I'm going to leave it a little bit fat. Now I'll come back and do some cleanup with a finer cutter. Now we're going to come into this wall, and you've got to tune it up periodically. We're going to come in right about here. So here's that laser dot. When that laser dot comes off off the edge of the wood, we know we're at our wall thickness. We're doing this in a series of little steps and trying to get each step blended with the other step. Okay, I finally got this thing hollowed out. Actually, it's dry, but that'll be in part 2. Hopefully, I'll be able to get that video out next week as I finish shaping this thing, and in part 2 we'll add the threaded collar and do some maybe some embellishing, maybe dyeing. I haven't decided exactly how I want to handle that. This thing was brief on details on some parts of the urn, on how to size it and that sort of thing. If so, if you're interested in that, click on that earlier that video, and I'll have the link here below. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends. Y'all stay safe. Come on back here.